Who wants to start this off?
Coach, can you talk about? I heard you on the radio talking about you told Tabaka to come in.
Yeah.
He kind of didn't. He said Sharon's got this. I mean, was he upset about something? Or
No, I think that probably should be put into context. It was a one-time kind of decision by Tabaka that Sharon was doing pretty well. We were running the football. The team was rallied behind Tabaka. He did a great job on the sidelines. I mean, he was in it. The situation itself, we didn't say, you're absolutely going in, and he didn't say, no, I'm not going in. We asked him, what do you think about warming up and be ready to go? And he said, Coach, I'm completely behind Sharon right now. And I think it's best for the team right now that Sharon plays this thing out. So you've got to know Tabaka. In fact, he was just in my office here for 20 minutes before I walked up here. He's a wonderful person. I mean, he is a beautiful person, cares about his team, cares about his teammates, wants to do what's right. So I don't want him misrepresented in that. Was it different? Yeah. I said to him, would Baker Mayfield have said that? You know, Bakerfield might have said, give me the damn ball. But your personality is what your personality is. But no, he wasn't upset in the least. He did it with the idea that he was being a great teammate, and that was what's best for the team at that point. So we've had a lot of discussions about how you lead, how you take advantage of that personality. You know, if you really care about the team, as he does, play and lead from on the field, not on the sidelines. But he was well-intentioned, and I think if you know him and you know his personality, you would see how that could happen and why that would happen.
Coach, how hard was that first quarter for you guys? Just how slow it was, how long it took, and just, you know, any rhythm that
Yeah,
got you guys out of?
I mean, it was the same rhythm for them. I appreciate, that's the first time I've had a game where really two calls were overturned that were a result of me going to the referee. We had two things that happened in that game that were overturned. It took a little longer than I think it probably should have taken. Again, the referee's microphone was out. You know, I'm not sure. A lot of times there's issues, you know, that affect things. Nah, that was no factor in the game itself. It was awfully long, though. It was awfully long. That game seems, again, like such a long time ago because it was Friday night. So many things in that game, right? I mean, so many things in that game. Kind of in a capsule analysis, you know, it was 14-7. We're up with 4 minutes left in the first half. And they throw that jump ball up to number 9. And it's an 87-yard touchdown pass. He was doubled, as was the Z was doubled. They just throw it up, very similar to the play against Liberty with the big receiver. So that makes it 14-14. Then they get the ball back again with 2 minutes left. We sack them on first down for -6. They run the ball. It's 3rd and 11. We call timeout, 3rd and 11. And they picked on one corner in particular with big number 9, but they ran a corner route into the boundary on 3rd and 11, which we should have made them check it down to the tight end. Long story short, that drive goes to make it 21-14 when it was 3rd and 11, and we take timeout to get the ball back with 1:40 left, I think, in the half, and we still would have had a timeout. On that drive, we had a roughing the passer penalty, which, again, it was called. I didn't think it was a late hit. We had 2 pass interferences because we're trying to cover number 9, who when number 9 comes back for Colorado State, it's a whole different football team. So we go in 21-14. First drive of the second half, we have a 3rd and 4. Sharon can't get the ball to Jordan Kress out in the flat, or that's going to be a first down. Then we get it back to 28-21. We fumble the jet sweep to Manny Logan Green. And then we get it 34-21 with 3.5 minutes left. Long shot, but we got the ball. We're moving the ball and our center turns back on their 3-2 technique. He beats us, and they strip the ball out of Sharon's grasp. So again, you know, we are a team that there's not much margin for error. We made some errors. Colorado State's a talented team, you know, particularly with number 9 back. You know, I said last week, I think to Steve, I said, a lot of this game depends on whether number 9, Warren Jackson, plays in this game or not. So with 9 and 22 in there, we had a hard time matching up, and here we are. Here we are.
Coach, you told us even at the beginning of the year how you weren't sure what you were to get from your secondary, and how those guys they didn't really play a whole bunch of minutes. But now that you see what you're getting and to give it up to 390 yards per game, how do you try to stop that or slow it down?
Yeah, I mean, we're under siege, and it is, and it's not going to stop because of some matchup situations, because of some youth in the secondary, because of some size in the secondary. It's really confidence in technique, taking the technique from Tuesday and Wednesday and being able to do it Saturday. You know, when you're under siege, a lot of times your technique breaks down and you panic. And all of a sudden now you're just a mess. And in this game in particular, because of how the game started, if you think back, quite honestly, we dodged a couple bullets early in that they had a post route. If he'd have thrown it, probably would have been a 75-yard touchdown. 22 beat us at the line of scrimmage. The freshman, who's quick as heck, beat us at the line of scrimmage, beats Latavian Beaton off the ball. He catches it. He's running down the field. Beaton does a great job and commits and punches that ball out. But the combination of number 9 being out there, them launching the ball early, we kind of abandoned technique. We abandoned technique. And again, no excuses. We are what we are. This isn't our first year as a coaching staff, but we have a redshirt freshman at right corner. We have a second-year JC guy at left corner that didn't play last year. We've got a junior college strong safety, first time in the program. We've got a junior college free safety, first time in the program. Brandon Burton started. He went out with a concussion. Johnny Hernandez is hurt. Came in and actually played about 35 plays, which I give him a lot of credit. Jarek Reed, the junior college safety, number 9, their first touchdown comes on a strong safety fire. They cut him. He guts it out and plays the game with a bad knee, but he's limping around. And then we have Patrick Peak, who he and his family made the decision was our starter, decided to redshirt. So, I mean, it is a challenge, but again, all of us, man, when we're under siege, sometimes we abandon technique in a lot of different ways, and that's really what's happening. So a bad situation gets made worse because we lose confidence in technique. So that's where we are.
Coach, how is Davis, first of all, and then is there a way maybe you can, have both the running backs?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and again, sometimes, you know, particularly if you're a coach, you go back to the negatives of the game right now because that's what festered with you. But if you just look at the positives of the game, I mean, Bryson Carroll rushed for 195 yards and looked like the guy that we have been hoping to see. You know, looks like the Terrion Gibson or the Jarrell Presley, was very explosive in that game. I mean, he comes in there and rushes for 195 yards. Marcus Williams, some of the catches he made in that football game were outstanding. I mean, great efforts. A young guy, another junior college linebacker, Jacoby Hearn, made about 4 or 5 plays in that game, big-time plays, had a sack, had a negative play. So there were a lot of positives. You know, Tyson Dyer, I think we had 7 or 8 punts inside the all seven inside the 15 at one point. You know, Sharon with the effort he played with. So there were a lot of positives. But, you know, back to the running back situation, Bryson Carroll's explosive. Amari couldn't play because of back spasms. Both those guys are healthy this week, and both those guys will play. It gives us a pretty good combination. I think it does make Amari, you know, all of a sudden, you know, one man's misfortune a lot of times is somebody else's opportunity. and Bryson took advantage of that. So he should be motivated to go. But again, we're very thin at receiver. You know, again, Lily's out for the season. Jay Griffin didn't play because of personal problems or personal situation, not personal problem. He won't play again this week. So we're a little thin at receiver, and we're a little thin in the secondary for sure.
Coach, sometimes to us it looks like an insurmountable challenge. You come in here today fired up.
Yeah.
And you know, you're quick, you're schematically going over this and that. Your enthusiasm is way up here. We look at it sometimes insurmountable.
Absolutely.
You don't look at it like that.
Well,
What
I might.
is the fix?
I might on Friday night and Saturday morning, you know, but you dig out of things. That's what you do. You know, you dig out of it. There's a degree of mental toughness involved, and just trying to get us to play better. Because, truthfully, I can look at it pretty objectively and say, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, and you don't look like a very well-coached football team. Say, you can't stand up here and defend and say, we are a very well-coached football team when this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. So that's frustrating. But then you quickly dig through that because you've got a responsibility to try to correct it. In each one of those things, without not being accountable, you see reasons why that happens. So there's just such a focus on narrow the focus and try to play better. Just try to get this team to play better. Because what you don't see is some of the disadvantages that you may have going in. There's no reason for me to say that. This is a bottom line deal where the coach is responsible for the scoreboard. But we all know there's a whole other thing of development and investment and all that that plays a factor. And you put all that aside, though, to just fix the problem the best you can. And you're around great people. I mean, our coaching staff doesn't back off one bit. Our players don't back off one bit. It's a challenge. It's mentally challenging. I mean, I don't like to lose. So that's what it is, you know. I mean, this week is a great example of that. You know, I look at Wyoming, and I've got tremendous respect for Craig Bull, tremendous respect. What he did at North Dakota State, I've known him forever. He was at Rice when I was at Texas A&M 100 years ago. Hell, he had hair back then, you know. But we beat Wyoming 3 straight years. We averaged 42 points a game for 3 straight years. The last 2 years against Wyoming, we've scored 3 points in both games. We've averaged 130 yards. Now, we turned the ball over 5 times. But I've also seen the development of Wyoming's program. I've seen Colorado State's development of their program. And all I'm responsible, all I can control, quite honestly, is the score on the scoreboard. Now, I accept that. But I've watched Wyoming football change over the last 3 years with how they feed them, how they develop them. I've seen that with Colorado State. And I've seen that, and I'm realistic to that. I understand that. But it doesn't change how I'm judged. It doesn't change the bottom line of any of this. So, but reality is reality. And that is the bottom line in all of this. It doesn't just happen where there's a number 9 on that field for Colorado State. It doesn't just happen. Wyoming, all of a sudden, isn't just X and O that much better than our coaching staff. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things, and alignment plays the huge role in all of this. But one person is responsible for that scoreboard, and I accept that completely. One person's accountable for that, and it's me, period. Okay?
Coach, you're about to head into like the meat of the conference schedule, like some of the grinders there.
Got it.
What's your mindset as you go in and try to get your guys to play better? I mean, do you feel frustrated? Do you feel pressure, or how do you feel?
No, we're the underdog, as we have been. We are the underdog. But again, it's a race against the clock, simply to get your team to play better. Simply, that's what it is, to try to get your team to play better. And that's the day-to-day thing of this. It's the day-to-day, what motivates you, what keeps your focus. Lucky to do this, very lucky to get to do this. So again, I think sometimes, this is always the time of the year where things get over philosophical. It's teaching that guy to play that cloud technique on 3rd and 11. It's teaching that. It's trying to solve this turnover problem with Sharon that we have, right? It's the day-to-day thing. And if you have everybody in the program doing everything they can do, I'm talking about from the program all the way from the top to the bottom. If they just did their job and fought their ass off to do their job, then you will be aligned and it'll get done. So you do what your job is, and your job is to try to get that technique corrected and try to get us to become a better, more consistent team.
Coach, you mentioned Marcus Williams had a nice stretch on Friday. How have you seen him grow from game 1 of this season? He had a great block and Bryson for the long run,
Yeah.
so he seems to be becoming a great all-around player.
You talking about when Bryson dropped the ball at the 1 yard line?
I think it was that way.
I saw that happen before anybody else saw it, because I've had that happen before. But Marcus is a little bit dinged up, playing a little bit hurt, but great ball skills, wide receiver ball skills. A couple of those catches he made two catches, one right in front of our bench, and the other one on a little sail route down here at about the 25-yard line. He's a talented guy. And, he's a guy that I guess the word, if I think back, is blue shirt or gray shirt. When they didn't, gray shirt, where he didn't come here right out of Cleveland High School. He waited and then started in January. So it picked up a whole nother year as far as eligibility. And he went from really being a basketball player to a football player over this time span.
Coach, you kind of had 2 games ago, Tabaka couldn't get started, couldn't pass the ball, and you put Jones in. Then, this last game, Jones has 11 yards at halftime, and of course, I saw the situation you had with Tabaka.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got to have a passer.
Yeah.
And so,
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't win without a passer.
You're right.
Yeah.
Because it has to be run to win, but throw to score, right? Run the ball to win, but throw the ball to score. I do think Sharon's better throwing the ball than he showed, and he has shown. I do think the potential's there to throw the ball better. The issue with the Colorado States and the Wyomings, quite honestly, is they'll play, like we just did a thing, Wyoming will play press, bump, and run man coverage 95% of the time. Basically, they're in man free, so they're up on you. They're up on you, as Colorado State was up on you. And throwing accurately against tight coverage consistently is a thing that's been the problem for Sharon, right? And he is another guy, Fred, that does abandon technique at times. And you've seen it. You've watched him enough for, oh, what was that? Confidence, repetition. But you're actually absolutely right. How many times did we even throw the ball in the first half, right, against Colorado State? Not many. 6 times in the first half. So, somewhere in that thing, we have to be more balanced with Sharon. Tavaka will get his opportunity again, as you know. And now, when Tavaka gets it again, he's got to be better than the last time he had that opportunity. And Trey Hall is in the conversation. He's in the conversation because, again, playing who we play, you're going to have to score points. You have to score points. Obviously, that's kind of a dumb statement. But
When I was asking you about pressure, it's kind of like the question I asked you at the beginning of the year. You feel like, since this is happening, do you feel like you're on hot seat at all?
Well, if you look at 3-9, we have 2 wins right now. Absolutely, I guess that's what that term would be. That really doesn't bother me a whole lot. I feel more concerned about the staff, quite honestly, than I would myself. So I guess that's what you'd call it. If I was at ESPN right now and I'm just looking as an outsider at here's the record, here's what the record is last year, absolutely, because of our record, I guess I would be on the hot seat. That's what it is.
How would you say Bryson's been doing with all this media attention, negative media attention with dropping the ball, Bryson?
Negative? I worry the opposite. I told him today, man, are you a one-hit wonder? Now, his dad is a football coach. His dad had a game Friday night, okay? So he couldn't watch the game, but he TiVo'd it. True story. And he watched the game early Saturday morning. And the advantage I have is his dad would be on his butt much more than I'd ever be on his butt. But there's a whole lot more positives coming from 195 yards than there is dropping that ball. At least I haven't read anything. But, I mean, thank God Marcus Williams picked that ball up. Now, it was delayed. It was so late that it wasn't a touchdown because there's a lag time in there where, okay, it's just you drop the ball at the 1 yard line. That's where the ball is. Neither team really recovered it. But we dodged a bullet there. But no, he's a great kid, and he just made a mistake, and he dropped the ball. So I don't think there's any negative things at all. I think he's got to be riding pretty high right now to come in there and rush the way he carried that football against a pretty good defensive team.
Coach, with, all the talk about Sharon and Tabaka, that whole situation, just going back to Friday, was the play calling limited at all offensively?
I wouldn't say it's limited, because if you look at the number of quarterback runs and some of the things we do schematically in the run game, it probably is a little bit more with Sharon. But if you're looking at it from a passing standpoint, no question, it's a little bit limited. But what really limits it is all the RPO world. If they can walk up there and match up on you man-to-man, just walk up on your nose and cover you, those run-pass options are taken away because there's no space in there. You're not putting the defensive back in a bind. They're just up there man-to-man. So those RPOs that you see kind of in the New Mexico State world, they've been taken away schematically a little bit because of the press man. And then it comes down to winning one-on-one on those outsides. So I think that's a very good question. From a passing game, it would be a little bit different with Sharon, but probably bigger than that, it's limited because of how we get played. And they're forcing us to win those one-on-ones. And now it comes down to how accurate it's that old thing of it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes, right? How do you win those one-on-ones? And that's where our biggest thing is. How do we win those one-on-ones, or sometimes two-on-ones on defense, covering those guys? How do we win the one-on-ones on offense, beating those guys?
Coach, Bryson brought to the program a lot of publicity, because he's Monday Night Football and ESPN also, even though you don't, that's not how you want to get it, but he did it, right?
I didn't know that. You talking about him dropping that ball?
Yeah, that was on ESPN, not Top 10, it was on
Yeah.
football, like, come on, man.
It was on that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that,
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of publicity for you guys, so.
Well, I'm not sure there's a lot of ways to get publicity. It's kind of like me going down in the locker room after the game, right? I mean, there was some publicity from that. I'm not sure that's all. No, I didn't realize that had become such a big issue, quite honestly. Yeah, it's interesting because we played Oregon State in the Fiesta Bowl my next to last year at Notre Dame, and Chad Johnson, Oko Cinco, he dropped one at the 1. But we didn't get the call. We didn't get the flip call of that. They kind of blew the call. So I've had that happen before in the game. All right, man, we okay? All right, guys.
Thanks, Coach.